If you want to build a new PC build to play Fortnite at 360 plus FPS on average, then this is going to be the perfect video for you. I'll show you the best budget gaming PC build for Fortnite and show you the level of performance that you can expect. The link to this budget Fortnite PC will be down below in the video description with the most updated pricing and availability in your region, and also with some alternatives that I will mention today. My name is Valentino. With that being said, let's start. Firstly, I want to start by saying that this computer is going to be ideal if you want to have a really good experience in any esports game, whether that's Fortnite, Valorant, CS2, and games of that nature. And you will be able to average 360 plus FPS or more in these type of games, of course in competitive settings. On top of that, this system is very capable of 1080p high FPS in high demanding titles like Cyberpunk 2077, and also 1440p resolution in case you want to upgrade your monitor down the line to a 1440p one. The key components inside of this system are the CPU, GPU, and RAM, and I will explain these components as simple as possible. That way, if you don't know much about PC components, it doesn't matter because you will be able to understand me. The CPU inside of this system is the Ryzen 5 7500F. This 6-core CPU is going to be perfect for this PC because for the most part, esports games do require more CPU than high graphics card demanding games like Cyberpunk 2077, so the CPU here is quite important. And trust me, this CPU is going to be amazing in terms of FPS in these type of games, but I will get to the level of performance in just a second. Another thing that you must know is that because you get this Ryzen 5 CPU, you get a very upgradable system over time. Because let's say down the line you want to upgrade from this CPU up to the fastest CPU in the entire market in the Ryzen 7 7800X3D, well, both CPUs are on the same platform, so the only thing that you have to do is take out the Ryzen 5 CPU and then put the new Ryzen 7 CPU inside of your motherboard, which is a very easy upgrade to make. That means that this system is going to give you less headache long term. Now, this CPU is going for just $130 on AliExpress, which is a very good price. But if you are not willing to buy from AliExpress, because maybe you want to buy from a US retailer like Amazon, Newegg, or Best Buy, don't worry about it because I will give you an alternative CPU, which is basically the same one later on this video. Another very important part inside of your system, and you can argue that this one is the most important one when it comes to your FPS, is the graphics card or GPU, however you want to call it. This one is the most important one, especially in high demanding GPU games like the one I mentioned before in Cyberpunk 2077. So it is very important to have the right graphics card because you want to have a CPU and GPU combo with no bottlenecks. And for this particular component, I had to pick the best value GPU in the entire market, in my opinion, in the RX 6750 XT. This graphics card is going to be amazing for both 1080p and 1440p gaming in both high demanding and esports shooters. And since the graphics card is the most important part when it comes to your gaming performance, now let's talk about that. At 1080p in a test in the most high demanding titles out there, like Cyberpunk 2077, The Last of Us Part 1, Hogwarts Legacy, and games of that nature, the RX 6750 XT is able to average 100 plus FPS, which is very impressive considering the type of games that are being tested. And then if you want a higher resolution monitor, at 1440p you can achieve 70 plus FPS. This is native resolution in high demanding games on high to ultra settings, so if you turn on FSR, which is the upscaler from AMD, then you can expect closer to 90 plus FPS at 1440p depending on the exact game and the exact settings. But honestly, this is quite impressive for how much you are paying for this system, which of course I will be talking about in just a moment. Now, in terms of esports shooters, I already told you the level of performance that you can expect, 360 plus FPS on average at 1080p, so you can buy a 360Hz monitor, possibly a 540Hz one depending on the esports shooters that you play. And then if you want to play at 1440p in esports games, you can expect from 240 plus FPS on average all the way up to 360 plus FPS, once again depending on the exact esports shooter. And once again, I am talking about in competitive settings. For the graphics card, you can also pick an Nvidia GPU instead of AMD, and in that case you should go with the RTX 4060, which is going for around the same price point. My only issue with the RTX 4060 is going to be slower than the RX 6750 XT, and it has less VRAM, which means that it's less future-proof. So if you want to play high demanding titles right now and in the future, whether for 1080p or 1440p, the 6750 XT is much better when it comes to that. And also, many people have this misconception that Fortnite is actually worse on AMD and is better on Nvidia. And I used to think the same thing, but luckily for us, a YouTuber, Sax TechTurf, was able to make an entire video talking about this and comparing AMD against Nvidia in Fortnite. And it was shown that this Nvidia over AMD take was completely false. Now, you can't go wrong with any of the two, to be honest. You can go with Nvidia or AMD, and just don't worry about the level of performance when it comes to Fortnite, because it's not going to change. In fact, the 6750 XT is going to be the better option because it's more powerful. But of course, if you must have Nvidia for some reason, maybe you trust the company more, or maybe it works better in your favorite programs, then by all means go with the RTX 4060. The link to that GPU will be down below in the description as well, for you to check the latest prices. And lastly, there's another important component as well, and this is the memory kit or RAM. For the RAM, I went with 32 gigs of DDR5 memory with fast timings, so you will get no bottlenecks when it comes to your gaming performance in regards to your RAM. And since I went with 32 gigs of RAM instead of 16 gigs, this is going to be ideal if you also want to do streaming and have a really good streaming quality and not lose any FPS. So it's going to be perfect if you want to stream your Fortnite gameplay or just any gameplay that you want to stream without losing FPS. For the rest of the components, you get a 1TB SSD, which is enough for most people, and it is very easy to upgrade. So if you ever need more than 1TB, it's going to be pretty easy and it's not that expensive anyway. You also get an aftermarket CPU cooler with RGB lights. In my opinion, this is ideal because the CPU temps are going to be lower and it is going to look better. Then you get a 650 watt power supply from MSI, which is going to be more than enough for this system. And most importantly, your system will not randomly shut down or burn. So that's the most important thing on a power supply. And then last but not least, we have the Montec Air 100 ARGB for the case. I have this case myself. It has 4 pre-installed RGB fans, excellent airflow, so you don't have to worry about hurting your system long term when it comes to your PC temperatures, because as I said before, the airflow here is great, and in my opinion, it's one of the best looking budget cases in the entire market. Now, the price for the entire system when I am recording this video is $850, and if you want to go for a CPU from the US market instead of AliExpress, then I highly recommend you getting the Ryzen 5 7600, this one right here. This Ryzen 5 CPU is slightly faster than the Ryzen 5 7500F from AliExpress, so you will be getting slightly faster FPS when it comes to those esports shooters like Fortnite, and on top of that, it's probably going to arrive earlier because it's from the US market and not from China like AliExpress, so that's going to be the ideal CPU for you. However, keep in mind that it's more expensive, and if you end up going with the Ryzen 5 7600, the total price for your system will be $900 instead of $850, and whether you want to trust AliExpress or not. And keep in mind that the price for the entire system might be different when you're watching this video, so I do recommend you checking the latest prices and availability in your region from the links down below. And if you are debating on whether you should build a PC or buy a pre-built PC which is already built for you, then for $850 or around that same price point, you can get the best pre-built PC in the entire market that I have tested myself in this Skytech Nebula. Now, I made a complete review about it, I tested it in Fortnite and different titles, so you will have that video in the top right of the screen, which I highly recommend you watching it, especially if you want a pre-built PC instead. Thank you guys for watching, thank you for the support, and I will see you on the next one.